I've used several e-ink devices from a Kindle, a Note Air 2 Plus, but I've moved into a non-Kindle, smaller screen format for the first time, and I want to share with you why. Now, this isn't going to be a deep dive review. There are some great videos out there, but I do want to talk about how I'm using this, why I'm using it, and where I think it could be great for productivity, general use, and people like you and me. I'm Adam with the Productivity Academy, and like I talked about in the beginning, I want to share with you how I am using this device. This is the Boox Go 7 Gen 2 Color. So kind of a mouthful, but it's a 7-inch device, it's color, and the manufacturer is Boox. So I have used some of their devices before. Most recently, I had a Note Air 2 Plus, which is the larger format. For some reason, I decided not to have it near when I was recording. Anyways, you can look it up if you're interested. It's a great device. I didn't really end up having any problems with the device itself. It was just the size format. It ended up being a little bit too big for me, whether it was tossing it into a bag, grabbing it on the go, or just the weight of kind of holding it while reading. I just found myself not really gravitating towards it over time, and definitely went back to just reading full time when I wanted to use an e-ink device on my Kindle. However, that was kind of my first exposure to having Kindle on a device and on an e-ink device, and I really enjoyed it. So I've used devices like the Remarkable as well, where it's very much minimal, more stripped down, and I love the idea of that. But once I tried having Android and having the ability to have some connectivity, the ability to share through kind of that ecosystem a little bit more, I found that I actually really enjoyed that. And two of my favorite apps are available on the Android store, and that is Readwise, the regular Readwise, and then Reader. And so having those available has been amazing, and I really like those. And while it's not the same as using on your phone or on the computer, I use them so much and I really enjoy them, that having them on that device where I'm doing the reading is really nice. What have I been using this for? Well, one of the best use cases for me has been reading in the mornings. I read almost every morning. I have time set aside for doing that, but a lot of times I'll have notes or an idea or a task or something comes up and I want to put it down so that I don't lose it. So I can open up the Notes app, write it in there, and I have it, and then I can transfer this, whether I send it to myself, I can just open this up, transfer it to my notebook, add it to whatever system I need it to go to, and just go from there. So while I'm doing that, again, I mentioned that the connectivity has been really nice. Well, I can have Roam Research, which I use for note taking. I have Notion, which I use for some processes and databases, tables, things like that. Or I could send an email to myself that I have routed into ClickUp so that I can create a task on my project management system. So I really enjoy being able to do that and getting things off my brain and knowing that I won't lose them, and I don't have to have another device around. I don't need to hop onto my phone. I don't need to write it in a different notebook. If I'm just doing my reading, I can come in, hop on this, and get to work. Now, how else am I using this? Well, definitely for reading. So one of the things that I thought about when I was going through and writing down some notes for the video was there was a graphic novel that I bought years ago based on the recommendations of a friend. I think the name of it is Saga, and it is this massive book I've got somewhere. I think it's in a box because I had to clean it up as stuff I hadn't read in so long. And it was just unwieldy. It was hard to read because it was so thick. It was like a compendium of volumes. And anyways, it was really interesting, but I just found myself not going back to it because the book literally was so large. Within a week of getting the Color Boox device, I had found an electronic copy of it and went through it in a week or two and found myself reading something that I hadn't read before. And I found that that was really interesting to me and a great use case. But of course, there's regular books, there's the Readwise side of things. I found myself going in and doing actually more reading, which I really, really enjoy. The one thing I would say that I don't enjoy is any sort of pinch to zoom on PDF files. And for that, I would want a much bigger device. But for me, that's fine. I don't do a lot of that. If I have just text PDFs, I will put them into Readwise Reader and have them reflow it just as text, which is an option in there. The other thing that I think is handy on the device to have is a lightweight browser. It's not like I'm going to sit there and be looking up a ton of stuff, but if I have it out and I want to look up one thing or I need to see something, I can do it there. Is it going to be as fast and as good of an experience as your phone, as your laptop, or any of these other devices? No, of course not. But again, having that available, being able to look something up on the device means I don't need to be carrying several devices depending on what I need to do, and I really, really enjoy that. Okay, so a question that I've seen a lot of people ask is about the color capabilities of this, and I can't possibly show all of this. Again, I would refer you to just look up the people who can give a better technical background and showcase of this. But for example, let's see if we can get it focused in on there. This is just a page out of the graphic novel I was telling you about. Let's see if I can refresh the page so it doesn't look quite as bad. So there we go. For me, I really like that. I find that to be completely acceptable. I really like it. And I kind of, like I said, went in with my eyes open. I understood that this wasn't going to be like looking at an iPad on super high brightness or anything like that. And I've enjoyed it. It's allowed me to read a little bit more where color is important. And I think that overall, I'm honestly pretty impressed with it. I think that the customizability of the device, again, you're running Android on the device. A lot of the apps that come here, even for the reading, you have a lot of flexibility in what you can do, whether that's things like margins and fonts and just doing whatever you want, which I'll talk about also when I talk about some of the things that might put someone off of this device. The size, I think that this is a great size, 7 inches. The cover that it came with has magnetic backing, so you can put it on there. It turns on and off based on opening the screen. So when you open the device, it will open, and you can pop it off of here. Let's see if I can do this without dropping it on there. You can remove it, and it's very lightweight device. I believe this is, I remember looking at this, but it's slightly less than the most recent Kindle, and pretty comfortable to handle. And you've got, as you can see over here, the physical buttons, which are really nice. Okay, so let's talk about maybe a little bit about what's frustrating. I think that the flexibility is one of its weaknesses, I will say, in the sense of it's so flexible. I find myself sometimes having to stop and be like, no, I just need to use this more. I've got this to read on, to take some notes on, not to spend 2 hours looking into fonts and doing this and that. I think that there's an initial uphill if you're coming to this from not having used a device like this before. Just realize that you're going to have to put some time and effort into customizing this, and it will pay off, but really try to stay focused on what it is that you want to customize. In most cases, that's going to be the reading experience. I have used several apps, and for some, like the graphic novels, the inbuilt, the Neo Reader app for reading is what worked best for me. But then I use KO Reader as the e-ink reader or app that I use for reading books on the device. I've tried Moon Reader Plus. I've tried a bunch of different apps, and for me, it just works. And again, customizability is huge. But with some of these, like KO Reader, you've got to go and look into probably their docs or look at what people have done, do some searching around on the internet and find out what works and maybe even what's possible. And if you are not into that or you're not up for that, this could be, not a deal breaker, but this might not be a great device for you. Last but not least, the stylus compatibility. So you can use a stylus with this. And when I purchased mine, they were already sold out of the stylus. You couldn't buy it separately. You couldn't buy it as a package. And I think that this right now is one of the weak points. Again, there are some technical issues that people will talk about. I believe it's USI technology. And I had read and understood people were saying, yeah, it's not as responsive. It's not as tight of a writing experience as I would like. It's kind of tappy. It's not, super paper-like. So that's fine. I'm not looking to write all the time on this. Like I said, I want to take some quick notes. I want to doodle something. I want to fire something off. I want to use it for highlighting more accurately. And for me, that has been my experience. It works just fine for taking some loose notes. It works just fine for highlighting. And although I haven't had a chance to use the official stylus, this seems to work great. I think I went with the MetaPen and got that. And that unfortunately was the second pen. After I tried a different one that I had seen a Reddit thread about that worked, I got it, didn't work, went with the Meta pen, that worked for me. So hopefully some of this gets cleared up and becomes a little bit more user friendly in the future. So if you're still with me and you're interested in this, I would say it's worth checking out. I just want to kind of reiterate the caveats of like who this would not be for. You know, if you want a plug and play experience like a Kindle, this is not going to be probably that good of an experience for you. And I would also keep that in mind for gifting. If you're thinking about giving this to someone, are they going to be able to set up with it? Do they have the patience to kind of learn how to customize? Are they going to be able to set this up? And I would think that most people are probably going to be looking at this for themselves, so not as much of an issue, but I do want to point that out. Also, if handwriting is your number one priority, this may not be the device for you, although I would think you would probably want to be going with a larger device if you're going to be doing that much handwriting. As a quick aside on this, there is a microphone and speakers on here. That's been really handy. I have used speech to text and gotten that to work, and that's been handy. I use that more and more as time goes on, and that can be another way to get around some of the writing issues if you end up not liking that experience. So for me, why I'm sticking with this now after about a month of using it, it fits into my daily flow. It's replaced my Kindle as my e-reader. It's handy. It's lightweight. I read it throughout the day. I can write down some notes or use, again, speech to text if I don't have the stylus with me, and quickly take down some notes, send it where I need to. And it's really working out kind of into my workflow. It's not an additional thing I have to have with me. It's not, something that's extra and beyond. I found that it replaced the Kindle and brought some capabilities with it. So for me, it's kind of making sense. If you're using one of these devices or you have any questions about it, please let me know. If you've got any customization tips or apps I definitely should be checking out, whether it's reading, productivity, whatever it might be, please let me know and I'll get back to you. Thanks for watching.